Hello, my name is Vicki Poole, for those who don't know me, and I am a hypnotherapist and a life coach. And one of the things that I'm really wanting to do is to give back to my communities and to help those that actually do a lot of the work that just supports all the things that I do as well. So I have Donna here tonight, and Donna Riley. And I've known her for just a little bit, not a long, long time, but enough to be quite impressed. And she is the gifted intuitive movement mentor. And I would like for her, if you don't mind, Donna, to just kind of explain to us what that means, because it sounds amazing. And I've seen you with your work and it is amazing, but maybe they don't know that. So go ahead and just spill it.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I'm aware of is that in our humanity, in our way of being on this planet right now, people are struggling. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of pain in our physical bodies and in our emotional selves and our spiritual selves, right? Like things, especially these past few years, are not easy.
Yeah.
They're not easy. And so I've witnessed all these things that people are struggling with. And, what I like to do is to support people to sort of tap into, the inner wisdom, like their bodies actually have a lot of wisdom, and we have the ability to heal ourselves. We have the ability to, really rise up to levels where we feel amazing. But we've lost touch with that. I've witnessed like so many people right now are struggling and have disconnected from that part of ourselves. And so I want to support and assist and guide people to come back to that, to the part of themselves that, can really heal and can really know through their intuition, their inner wisdom, like how to really live a vibrant and healthy life.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. Well, let's just say that some of the people that are watching right now, maybe they're having a little bit of issues with their body or whatever. So what would they maybe, for what you're seeing, what would they be feeling that they would be definitely wanting to work with you to help with that? What are some of those things they might be experiencing?
I think that the core fundamental level is if you're experiencing physical aches and pains or even mental and emotional stress, these are signals that we're given that we need to pay attention to something, right? They're not like a death sentence or like, okay, I guess I just have to suffer and deal with this. They're really our body's way of letting us know that, like, okay, I need you to pay attention to something. And that's kind of what I help to guide you to, and to help you understand and to work through that process of, what is your body actually trying to tell you? It's not, I think a lot of times, like, we think that when we have these pains or these ways that we're suffering, we think it's like, okay, well, I'm just getting older, or okay, just how it is. And that's actually not true. We've unfortunately accepted that that's the truth, but it's actually not the truth.
Right. Right.
So, so like, I'm there to sort of guide you and support you and help you understand that you actually have an amazing amount of power to shift that and to end your suffering and to end your pain and to see that as a way to alchemize to a higher level in your life and in your well-being.
Perfect. Well, it's kind of like the old thing about, if you ignore those aches and pains, the little ones, and you don't do anything about it, they get bigger and bigger and bigger till you have some kind of disease or something going on that takes massive work. So if you would notice these things and figure out a way to take care of them, which is what you do, you would be able to bypass that. And another thing that it just popped in my head, but I'm of the same mind that if that was old age, that would be everybody's experience, because everybody gets old. But you see some people that are decrepit and can't hardly move at 50, And some are 75 and 80 and they're moving around, they're running, they're
Yeah.
skateboarding, they're doing things. So one of the things that I used to do was I would look on the internet at, I would say, people doing remarkable things at 80. And I would get videos to watch because I didn't want to have my brain full of all these people that I see in my everyday life,
Right.
full of all this problems. I wanted to see the ones that were doing extraordinary things. So it's kind of, you're helping people to get to the place where they can do the extraordinary things if that's what they choose and not fall victim to all of these societal expectations of once you hit a certain age, you start falling apart, right?
Absolutely.
If I got it.
And, it's so interesting, Vicki, because you're using the word extraordinary. And what I'm aware of is that what we consider extraordinary now was not extraordinary 50 years ago. In other words, it's because we sit more, we sit in front of the computer more, we eat more crap, we, are exposed to more blue light. Like, we live in an environment now that diminishes the human potential. And yet, ultimately that human potential is still there. We just have to, like you said, seek the guidance, the awareness, the, modalities, the tools, the practices that allow us to live from that place where we can be 80 and still be like completely vital and alive and vibrant in our bodies and in our lives.
Yes. I know I made a statement to somebody one day. I said, I wanted to live to be 100. And she said, oh, I don't know that I want to live to be 100. Hell, she said, I can't hardly move at 60. By the time I get to be 100, I'll be a basket case. And, and I said, well, don't you want to choose something different? And she just really didn't feel like it was a possibility. And so I love that you do this and you kind of show them that there is a possibility for a different kind of life than what we see in the movies or what we see, around us at the grocery store, people with their walkers and, not being able to move around very well. And that's kind of what we're bombarded with. So I love that you're there to help support people to make those changes. But I want to switch gears for just a second because one of the things that you said in your bio, and I just learned about this about you not too long ago when I heard you on the podcast, and that you had the NDE or near-death experience for those who don't know. And that's always fascinating to me. So I really haven't heard, and I don't know, you may not even want to dive into it, but what was that experience and how did that actually help you to decide that this was your mission?
Oh, thank you, Vicki. I actually would love to dive into it because it is such a big piece to my story and my purpose. So when I was 12 years old, I did have a near-death experience, and I don't know how much detail you want me to go into about that, but
spill it, girl.
So I was really, really, really sick with flu-like symptoms, and after 5 days, I was in the hospital, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. And so they decided to do exploratory surgery, and I caught pneumonia and spiked a fever after going through the surgery. And while laying on the hospital bed, while my fever was like super high, it was very clear. 3 nurses on one side of the bed, 3 nurses on the other.
And what age did you say you were? Not to interrupt.
I was 12.
12, okay.
Yeah. And they were dipping towels into buckets of ice and putting it on my body to try to bring my fever down. And I remember the chaos, and they kept saying, we're losing her, we're losing her, we're losing her. And I hovered above my body. So it was literally like the movie Ghost. Mm-hmm. And I remember that movie where he could go through doors. Mm-hmm. Like he was still form in some way, but he could also be permeable. That's exactly what it was like for me. I was hovering above my body, saw my body, and I saw the nurses trying to, quote, save my life, which I put in quotes for many reasons. And my mother was at the end of the hospital bed, right, observing all this, obviously white as a ghost and terrified because she's witnessing her daughter dying. And I remember just being completely at peace. I was like, peace out, people. I'm good. This is freaking awesome. Like, bye-bye. Don't try to save my life. Like, I don't get why you're trying to save my life. Like, mom, it's cool. See you later. Thanks for the life. Like, I'm out of here. I was very, very, very at peace. And I hovered above that scenario for quite a while. And then at some point I started to move away from my physical form and toward the light. And it's what everybody says. It's like this beautiful, amazing, vibrant, like blinding light. And my experience was a little different than how some people explain it. I've heard other people say they felt like they were going to cross over. From me, I felt like I was about to become one with the light, because as I moved further away from my physical form, I became more light. Oh, wow. Point where it was like I was about to merge with the light. And it was in that moment that I felt a very gentle sort of tap on my energy field, and I heard a voice, and it's what a lot of people say. I couldn't tell if it was masculine or feminine, and it said, no, it's not time. And then when I came back really, really, really fast, and like catapulted back into my body. And in that second, I heard one of the nurses say, okay, we've got her, like she's coming back, like, whatever. But a big piece to my story is that I didn't tell anybody about that for 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
Well, what I know now, I've done much healing and many experiences, is a couple of reasons. One is I grew up very Catholic, and I was aware. My mother was very, how do I say this? My mother was very attached to, her identity was wrapped up into me. And I knew on some level that if I told her about this, she was going to glorify it. Put me out in the world as like, look at my child, isn't she special? And I didn't want to buy into that contract. And also at the same time, I was aware that, like, now I know, I didn't know it at the time, but I got interviewed several years later for a woman who was making a documentary about death, and she was interviewing people who had near-death experiences. And she asked me, why didn't you tell anybody? And what came to me in that moment was, I didn't think I was emotionally mature enough to handle the responsibility. So something inside of my soul knew that there was a responsibility attached to this experience. And because I was only 12 and I hadn't processed it and talked about it, I wasn't emotionally mature enough to interact with it and to share it and to talk to people about it.
Yeah. So it seems like it would be, especially for a 12-year-old, be very hard to keep that kind of a secret. So how do you feel like that actually played out in your life, as far as, because I mean, that's pretty intense secret, and just keeping small secrets from people around you can make a difference in your psyche, your ability to function with other people and things like that. So how did that affect you?
So the bottom line is, I spent most of my life in PTSD, not wanting to be here. So how that affected me is I was escaping my body constantly. I was angry. I didn't want to be here. I couldn't connect with anybody. I didn't get people. I literally couldn't understand human beings. Like, I had that experience of pure love and light. So operating in this day-to-day stuff where people are like nasty and judgmental and hateful and whatever, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I couldn't identify and relate. So I escaped and was a loner and didn't identify and didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't connect and understand. And I basically lived on the outside of life. Like, I didn't participate. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't connect to other human beings at all. I looked at them like they were aliens, and I was like, what's wrong with you people? Like, why don't you get that we're all one? Why are you being mean? Like, what are you doing? And I basically just survived. I was great at my work. Thank God, like I was born with these gifts and this clairvoyance and this ability to like really like see people and help people and support people. So in my work, I was, doing amazing things, but in my day-to-day personal life, I literally didn't even date for years. Like I was completely alone by choice. I was hiding from life because I couldn't relate and I couldn't identify. And I was angry. I really did not want to be here. And it was weird because I never told anybody that, because what that sounds like to the average person is that I wanted to commit suicide.
Right.
But that's not what it was. And I unconsciously knew people couldn't understand that, so I didn't say it.
Yeah, I can understand that. So how did all of that tie into getting you into this place where, and I know it inspired your mission, but how did those two things connect? And also, so there may be some people who don't understand what clairvoyance is. So maybe you could kind of elaborate a little bit on that so that we can kind of see the whole picture with it.
Yeah, so clairvoyance is the ability to see things beyond what is in the physical form. So it can look like, for me, a lot of it is about having visions. Like all of a sudden I'll see like a film or like a movie screen in front of me, a vision of something. And then, 6 months later, it becomes the reality, right? So I had that vision and I'm like, oh, I know this is going to happen. Or specifically in my work is when I watch a body move, I can see what the limitations, the blocks, the obstacles are, because the truth is physical limitations are very rarely about physical limitations. In other words, just a manifestation of thoughts, emotional stuff that's been held for years, trauma that hasn't been dealt with, right? So it's like they are just the physical manifestation of the deeper levels of what's happening in that person's psyche, spirit, emotional body. And so I can see that. I can see that, okay, this is for you, it's like this emotional thing needs to be dealt with. And for you, it's this spiritual thing. Like I have one client who, she really struggles. Like, she's like, what's the point of being here? So that's the spiritual struggle, And so it's like bringing her into her body in such a way that she taps into like, oh, I want to be here, right? Like, it's like, so the clairvoyance for me is like seeing all that and can see the different levels of the energies. And then also just seeing like a lot of what's happening right now on the planet. I had a vision like several years ago about this was about to happen. So it's an intuitive gift that is about seeing.
Okay. So how does the NDE and the clairvoyance and all, I'm just, for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
How does that tie together? How did having that NDE make you feel, or have you know that this was what you wanted to do? I don't know if I'm asking the question right, but
no, I love it because honestly, like, this is a big piece that I'm working through, right? Because I have part of me that was a dancer and was always in my body and like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then I have the part of me that was like, had no self-esteem and was in abusive relationships. And then I have the part of me that had an NDE, and it's like, how does that all tie in? And so to answer you right now where I'm at, I think what I'm aware of is that with my near-death experience, God gave me the gift of loving to dance as a way to stay present in my body, and a way to stay on the planet and feel joy. And at the same time, so my spiritual teacher, guide, has helped me a lot with this. And she says to me, when you've had an NDE, you have enormous perspective on things. Like I can step outside and I can go to the light and look down and have perspective on the bigger picture. And so because of that, that adds into my gifts of how I can help people, right? Because like, most of the time, like we're stuck in this 3D sort of like, I gotta go to work, I gotta pay my bills, I gotta da, 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 right? But if we can step outside of that and have a sense of the bigger picture, it gives us a new paradigm. It gives us a new way that we can try to move forward in our lives and from a higher level of consciousness, right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, you're doing good. You're doing good.
But ultimately for me, like what I've learned and through my experiences and what I truly believe in every cell in my body is like what I witness, and I'm part of some communities, and you and I are in a community together where it's like, a lot of people are talking about, oh, just change your vibration, change your energy. And I'm like, okay, but that can also be a way of bypassing your body. And the truth is, until you actually become fully embodied, then there's going to be limitations, right? Like it's far easier. Yes, would I love to meditate my way to perfection and joy and happiness or whatever? Of course. But we still live in a 3D world. Our true home is our physical body. That's our first home. And for me, I study with some amazing energy healers that are like way beyond what I can even process, how amazingly high level they are. And they constantly talk about the biggest epidemic we're suffering from right now is that people are not in their bodies. And so I believe that my journey and my experiences have allowed me to have the highest level of energetic experience and the deepest level of embodiment. And it's really like bringing all that together that allows us to live from the vibrant vitality, fullness of our humanity and what we're here for. Right.
That sounds perfect. Yes. Yes. I love it. So I wanted to ask too, I know it sounds like a lot of this has to be in person, but do you also do remote work with people?
Actually, that's 100% of what I'm doing right now.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. I guess COVID was good for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously like, I want to, at some point, like I want to start doing kind of retreats and in-person workshops, but I love the idea now that, one of the things I found with like doing everything online is like, there's something very special and sacred that, I'm in my home, they are in their home. And so we can not worry about, oh, that client over there might hear what we have to say, or, I'm uncomfortable showing up in this group because whatever, XYZ. So there's a certain safety, emotional safety when you're online because, you're in your home when there's just you and I, and there's no distractions and no anyone else observing or being part of it.
Right.
So,
and you haven't fought traffic for 45 minutes to get to where you're going either. So
girl, right. We both live in Atlanta, so we know
place.
that's real, right? Like, yeah, absolutely.
And that's just right down the street.
One of my clients this morning, like we had a 7 a.m. session and she said to me, oh God, Donna, I do not miss like getting up at like 6 o'clock in the dark to like drive to like someplace, like,
yes.
Wake up, put on, and here we are.
That's right. Well, let me ask you this because I'm really, really curious. So let's say it was me and I were to say, I want to work with you. And then what happens next? Do I move around in the screen for you to see what I do? What is it that I don't get it. So just kind of fill me in just a little bit. I mean, I see what you do sometimes and you're so fluid in all your movements and everything. So I love it, but I don't really understand quite how you look at me and what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and then you can know. So kind of feel
So
into it just a little
obviously
bit.
I have some actual programs, right, which
Okay.
are preset. But like so for instance, if you were to come to me and say, Donna, I'd like your help, and can we have a session? What I would do is I would say, okay, let's set up a session and show me what you are currently doing for yourself in terms of how you are moving or what you're doing for stretching or whatever, right? Like, show me, because I'm clairvoyant. So like, as I watch you move, I'm like, bam, 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 bam. This is what needs to happen.
Okay. So did anything come to you when I just did all that stuff?
She's like, give me a reading right now.
Only while you're here.
Okay, honestly, you want me to tell you?
Sure.
Okay, so what I see very quickly is that you're very, what I call appendage oriented, meaning like your arms move really freely, right? Like your arms and your limbs move freely, but there's like not a depth of connection to the core, to the center of your being.
Okay.
So I would want to assist you in how do you connect from like your deepest layer of yourself, of your physical body, but obviously that to me is also your spiritual body, because they're one and the same. And so I would want to like help you tap into that and learn how to like feel into that, tap into it, that know what it feels like, know how it moves, know how it wants to express itself through you, and then let that move through to your limbs.
Okay. That sounds good. So maybe we do need to talk.
You're like, I want some of that.
That's right. That's right. I'm ready now. All right.
I mean, in that, yeah. So that's cool. Yeah. Okay.
Good. All right. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, one of the things that you have in your little bio was that. So I want to know, what does it mean to live life with grace and fire?
Yeah. You know, so for me, that taps into the feminine energy. So I spent I grew up with 3 brothers, no sisters. And I grew up with the energy of like, you're a girl, so you're lesser than. And through my journey of my life, I've now really tapped into, discovered, and am passionate about like, actually the feminine is where the fucking power is, man. Right? Like, so and the feminine is the grace and the flow and the being in the flow of life, and the intuition and the softening and allowing and receptivity, right? Like I mean, I'm going to be a little graphic, but like, let's be honest, like, look at our body parts. We're meant to be the receptor. We're meant to receive, right? Like, what I've seen over many years of working with women and their bodies is they're operating from that masculine energy of like pushing and forcing and like over efforting and like whatever. So the word grace for me is like, let's get back to this like softening of our feminine energy. And the fire part is like, that is actually the power, right? Like, we as women, like, I mean, hello, we've been chastised and burned at the stake for hysteria, which is just passion, right? And like, and like that part of us that's an emotional creature, and we've been told that there's something wrong with that, and we've been told that, like, you know, we're crazy, or, you know, we need to diminish ourselves because of that. So that duality of like, we can be this graceful, soft, nurturing, loving, intuitive energy, but then also we can be this fierce, like, don't fuck with my baby's energy, right? You know, and all of that lives in us, you know. Society, the patriarchy, like, has diminished that, and we've let that happen. And so I want us as women to reclaim all of that, our emotional bodies, our intensity, our fire, but also our grace and our nurturing and our softening and our sensuality, and like all of that lives in us. And when we really, really, really embrace the fullness of who we are, that is how we live our lives.
Sign me up.
I love this. Vicki, you have no idea how much you're like filling my heart, because like a part of me that I've hid for so many years because like I was told I'm too much, right? Intense, I'm too passionate, I'm too deep, I'm too whatever. So now I'm like unleashing that part. You're like, yeah.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So, how can everyone find you and maybe reach out for more information? I'll be talking to you when we get off here. But how anybody that's watching this that just gets lit up like you've lit me up, how do they reach out and get some Donna?
Get some Donna. So my basic way to contact me is literally so easy. It's contact.donna.me. But also I'd like to share that on Monday, I'm going to be launching a private Facebook group that's called Be Alive in 5. And it's all about, I'm going to go live every day at 12 noon Eastern time, dancing. And I'm going to be inviting you to come back into your body and join me, come back into your feminine energy, into your like power, sensuality, aliveness, like reclaiming all that, and get away from the computer, get away from the chores and the kids and the so I would love you to join me and like be part of that group. And there's going to be a lot of little tips and inspiration and all that kind of good stuff as well. So
perfect. So I will post in the comments after I post this, because I'm actually going to post this in a few different places, and I'll post in the comments. But really quick before we stop, go ahead and tell those two things again.
So contact.donna.me, and the Facebook group is Be Alive in 5.
And when you do that, is the 5 the number or the word 5?
The number. Thank you. Oh, okay. Yes, the number.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, this has been so eye-opening. I thought I knew what you did, but didn't have a clue. So I am so excited that now I know, and I can help you share that with the world, because it's definitely much, much needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you
for everything.
Yeah, I know your work is amazing too. So I'm very happy to like connect with you and like share all this. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we'll say goodbye to everybody with that, and just hang on for a second because I want to talk to you really quick. But everybody, it's been amazing, and I hope you've gotten as much out of this as I have, because it has definitely been seeing it from a different place with all this movement and how you can help. So really, really thank you very much. But you guys, see you later.